This is the Unstuck Movement, True Testimonies of Breakthrough. I am your host, Rob Z. Today we have the wonderful Ed Doherty with us on the podcast. Ed, I love to jump in, get right into the thick of things with a question right off the bat. You are a self-proclaimed accidental book author. How does somebody become an accidental book author? What does that mean to you?
Well, it goes back to when email was invented.
Okay.
I decided to send my team one email a week with, upcoming dates or reminders. And at the end, I started writing something I called the commentary. It was just my observation on something that had gone on or something that needed to be done. And when I got furloughed in 2020, I lost the audience. So I decided to start sending that commentary style to my contacts. And it was originally going to go out on Sunday, but I didn't finish the first one in time. So it went out on Wednesday, and I called it the Wednesday Weblog. Well, after 3 years of doing that, I took the best 60 stories, commentaries, and put them into a book that I call Observations at the Speed of Life, which is what they are.
I love that because I had a conversation last week on this podcast about creativity. And creativity is all around us all the time. And I love the fact that, you became a marathon runner in your 70s. You've launched a book in your 70s. Like you did all these things and your creative juices are flowing so strongly. And I find that so many people in life have creativity kind of beaten out of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Life kind of does that to us. And it seems like you've kept that alive and well. So first of all, as we dive in here, I got to introduce the show, but I want to talk to you about how you keep this creativity for you alive and well. Before we get there, though, I just want to thank everybody for being here. This is the Unstuck Movement. This platform was created to help you break the chains that are holding you back in life by giving you true stories of people who've had incredible breakthrough in their lives. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. You can check out connectedleadersacademy.com to find over 400 servant leader entrepreneurs from all over the world who collaborate together. You can be a part of this incredible tribe at connectedleadersacademy.com. Also, quick reminder, if you really want to become the go-to authority in your field, if you maybe already are the expert at what you do, but you want more people to know about it, and you want to make incredible connections in your industry that will build your relationships, build your network, but also build your income and build your business, I think it's time for you to launch your own platform, launch your own podcast. And if you already have one, now it's time for you to take it to the next level, get it monetized, make an impact. Go to robzwentz.com and join our wait list for the Pro Podcaster Academy. So Ed heads Ambrose Landen Consulting, focusing on strategy, leadership development, and employee engagement. He's an optimistic leader with experience in mentoring and personal development programs. Also, like we said, book author, marathon runner. Talk about this creativity for yourself, Ed. How have you kept such a creative mind throughout your life?
Well, I don't remember exactly when it started, but when I had finished something, someone said to me, "What's next?" And I ask myself that question all the time. Regardless of what I'm doing, I'm thinking about what's next. And it's just always worked out for me.
It can be as simple as that, right? The best things in life are simple.
Right. I think one of my specialties compared to other people I know, I don't do too much overthinking. And I see people suffering so much because they overthink. I don't do that. I put my energy into the task at hand and what's next.
Man, that is so good. And it's so simple. And I think this is where a lot of people, and you're right, this is where people get, as the name of this podcast is, the Unstuck Movement. This is where people get stuck because they don't make movement. They don't take action. And if I could give one thing, this has been a huge, I'll be honest, this is why I do my coaching, because I've been coached in this because I had a really hard time making decisions. And in certain areas of my life, I still struggle in this, right? Decision making is key, making a decisive decision. My wife, she's excellent at making decisions. And what I've noticed is when you make a decision, it's not going to be the perfect decision, but it's going to move you forward in the direction that you want to go. Is this something that you've always been this way, or did you have to cultivate this throughout your life?
Well, I think that my attitude about decisions, not my complete attitude, but part of my attitude about decisions is sometimes after you make a decision, what you do after you make the decision determines more on if it was a good decision or a bad decision. I mean, you can take the wrong turn, but it could turn out to be a good decision. So I try to focus. Once I made a decision, I focus on making it the best decision possible.
I love that. That's what you've got to do. You make a decision and then you follow through with it and find a way to make it good.
Well, you
Because
think about the number of people that were hired, and initially maybe this isn't working out, but the reality is that you can do things to make it work out. To make it fit, to make everybody successful.
yeah. What can I learn from this is a great question to ask too, right?
Right.
How can I be of service? What can I learn from this? What are you laughing? What were you going to say?
Well, I had this grueling job in Los Angeles in the 80s, and no one could understand why I was sticking it out. It was a mess. I was operating some restaurants, and in California, if you have a dirty restaurant, it violates the criminal code. And so more than one judge threatened to throw me in jail. I had just taken over this region of 50 stores. And someone said, "Why do you continue doing this?" And I said, "You have no idea how much I'm learning. Why would I leave? I'm squeezing a year's worth of knowledge or education into a month." And I was right. It helped me the rest of my life because I didn't run away and I focused on what I was learning.
Oh man, that's what a perspective to have. You can't believe what I'm learning, because most people would not look at it that way. They would not
No,
look at it as like an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow. And that's what you seem like, a very youthful man. That's what probably kept you young over all these years, I'd imagine, right?
well, I've had my ups and downs as everybody. I have plenty of scar tissue on my back, if you know what I mean. But as long as I was learning something that I knew I could apply moving forward, or as long as it was making me better, I was okay with it.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because I feel like at a younger age, you can really feel like the stress that you're experiencing isn't worth it. And the stress is, really taking you down a bad path. And stress can kill you, right? It depends on how you look at it. So how have you been able to deal with high stress situations and press through? Because I know that one of the things that you live by is pressing on, and what that means to you in your life. So how do you mentally deal with stress and physically deal with it where you do continue to press on?
I think there's two parts. There's things that you just have to do, and you have to accept them and do the best you can. And there are things that are optional, that you can run away or you can face them, and that's an individual decision. One of the stories in the book has to do with the first one. I was driving on an interstate highway in New Hampshire, and the car in front of me spun out, smashed into the center median, started smoking, glass, plastic all over the highway, and I realized I could be the first one to that car. And I could either drive away or I could pull over. And I pulled over, and I didn't know why cars exploded, but I knew that I had to get that person. It could have been it was someone's wife or mother or sister, or So I ran back to the car. The door wouldn't open. There's black smoke. There's white smoke from the airbag mixing with the black smoke from the engine, and I kept pulling. The fourth time I got the door open, I escorted the woman away, and I said to her, "Thank God for airbags." She looked at me and said, "Thank God my kids weren't in the car." She was somebody's mother. But I'll tell you, I can't remember another time when I was faced with such a high pressure situation. Do I drive ahead or do I risk? I guess I risked my life. The car didn't explode, but I didn't know that. And it was just, I think it was the, I think it was a general feeling that we are here to help people. And it was crystallized that it was I was called. That's the name of the story. My number was called, and I had to show up.
Yeah, your number was drawn. You were the person there for that situation, so you had to meet that. And lots of people don't make that decision. They drive away, and then you can feel that. You live with that.
Right.
I can put that as small of an example as a couple of weeks ago on the road. Somebody had like a bag had fallen off their car, and like cans had spilled all over the road. And so many people pass that, right? So I started to pass it, and I was like, I got to pull over, and it'll hang with you, right? You have that thought in the back of your head. I need to do something like that. It's my job to do this because you feel like you're the one called to do that. And I love that, Ed. I love the fact that you pulled over and you were the person to go up and do that. Cause that can be on a small scale. That can be on a large scale. And like that day, you may have saved that woman's life. Who knows what would have happened if you would have kept driving, but you decided to make that decision. And those sorts of decisions happen in a split second. And you don't really even have time to think. It's almost instinct. Do you feel that you were just naturally born with that instinct of going for it? Because I know that you used to be a couch potato.
Yep.
So is that the old you?
I'll tell you what my instinct is to avoid feeling guilty. That's what my instinct is. I don't want to feel guilty about things. So I don't have too many glasses of wine. You know what I mean? I don't order a big steak. I just don't want to feel guilty. I want to be the best person I can be.
Yeah. What is the couch potato part of your story? What was that, Ed, like?
So I was 60 years old, and my wife suggested one day that I might want to spend less time on the couch. And she gave me an article about walking.
How much time were you spending on the couch? Were you there quite a bit?
Enough. I mean, I was working full time, but when I wasn't, I was on the couch. Those were the two places I was. And I gained quite a bit of weight. So she gave me the article. I read it. I immediately walked outside and walked around the block. I've been married for 50 years, and that's one of the secrets to a long marriage is you do the things that keep the relationship strong. So I walked the second day, then the third day, then a fourth day, then a fifth day. And I said, okay, I'm going to track this. And then I ended up walking over 400 days in a row. Now, sometimes if it was pouring rain, I just walked to the end of the driveway and back, but I kept my streak alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I was out and I said, I wonder if I could run. And I ran about 100 yards and I was in shock. I wasn't hurting. I didn't, I had the breath to do it. I was like, holy mackerel, this is unbelievable. So the next day, to take the next step, like what's next, Ed, I decided to try to run a mile. And I did it. And I was in even bigger shock. So I decided, the heck with this walking crap, I'm going to be a runner. And I was 60 years old. And there was a 5K in a couple of months at a local town. And so I started training for that. And I ran my first race. And I can't tell you how excited I was that almost everybody who ran that race was younger than me. I didn't care that I didn't finish first. I didn't care that I, wasn't a star. I was just impressed with myself that I was as old as I was 60 years old, and I was running. And so naturally, someone with no training who starts running, what happens next? I hurt myself.
Mm-hmm.
So they prescribed physical therapy. I go to the physical therapist. Sarah was her name. She gave me all these things to do. Eventually, she left the organization she was with to start her own company, and she became my physical therapist running coach. And so then I started running the way I was supposed to. And one day I said, hey, there's a finish at the 50 10K. It finishes at Gillette Stadium where the Patriots play. It finishes on the 50-yard line. If I could run, 10K, I could be in Foxborough. So I started training, and I did it. And then the nonprofit I was with had numbers for the Falmouth Road Race, which is between a bar in Woods Hole and a bar in Falmouth Heights, 7 miles. It's more than 50 years old with about 15,000 runners. And I said, I might be able to do 7 miles. And so I did that. And of course, now I am obnoxious. I am a real runner. At this point, I probably lost 25 pounds. And I'm continuing to run. And the idea of a half marathon was kind of sneaking into the back of my mind. And a friend of mine was running one in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. And he said, if you're ever going to run a half marathon, this is the one to do it because it's flat. And I didn't even think of that. But a flat half marathon is the way to go. And so I ran it. And so in fact, I've run 6 half marathons in total. And then right before I ran that first half marathon, like 3 months before, I went to Sarah, my trainer, and said, do you think I could run a half marathon? And she said, it's about time you woke up. Of course you can. So after I'd run 4 or 5 half marathons, one day I said to her, do you think I could run a marathon? She says, it's about time you realized that you could do that. So I started training for the Boston Marathon, and I did 500 training miles that year. They moved the marathon from April to October because of the pandemic. And then they cut the field to just the professional runners rather than the nonprofit runners. And I had a bib from the Boston Bruins Foundation, and they said, find a place to run a marathon and we'll record your time as official. So I said, okay. And I found a route in Boston that was around the outside of Fenway Park. 47 laps around the outside of Fenway Park where the Red Sox play is 26.2 miles. So I started doing practice runs, 10 laps, 20 laps, 30 laps. I actually kind of became part of the tour because I would, the tour guys would say, this is a 70-year-old guy running a marathon, da, 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 da. And I ran 2 20-mile test runs. So I knew that I could do it. And I had been to behind Fenway Park is a nightclub area. And there is a place called Loretta's Last Call, which is a country music bar. And they have a patio outside. And I talked to the manager and I said, can I make this patio my, base of operations, if you will? And he said, sure. So my wife was still concerned about me running that distance. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm running laps, I could sit down and talk. I actually got a doctor to come, to be in my space. Now, he was an obstetrician, but I never told my wife that. So I have a doctor, my son, my brother as my cheering section. And my son had called the local NBC station. And when I got to the site at 5 o'clock in the morning, there's a reporter and a camera. So now not only do I have the pressure of running a marathon, I have the pressure of running a marathon on television. So the reporter interviewed me. I set off. And in 6 hours and 18 minutes, I finished my first marathon, 47 laps around the outside of Fenway Park.
Absolutely incredible. At what age was that?
I was 70 years old.
70 years old. Incredible. 10 years after you started running.
Right.
Man, it's so inspiring. I'll tell you, because it's that lifelong learning, growth-minded mentality that we all need to have. Like there's never an end. And like you said, what's next?
Right.
Like, what am I going to do next? I'm curious what's next after running a marathon at 70, but we're going to get there. We have to take a quick break, a minute break to shout out the sponsors of the podcast. When we come back, I want to ask you this question. Of these observations, right? Observations at the speed of life. What is the most powerful observation of life that you've made over these 70 years? Because I want to know how we can apply that and the impact that that has had on you. We'll talk about that in 1 minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So Ed, loving this conversation, and I'm curious for yourself, what is the observations at the speed of life, the most powerful observation of life that you've made over the years?
Excuses are for beginners and losers. And
excuses are for beginners and for losers. So you might be just a beginner, but you're not a loser. But if you're not a beginner, you might be a loser if you're making excuses.
Correct. I was managing a restaurant when I was in my 20s, and a college kid, I messed up his paycheck. And he was short a couple of hours, and I said, I'll add it to the next paycheck. And I turned to walk away, and he said to me, the manager, excuses are for beginners and losers. Which one are you? And it really stuck with me because I wasn't a beginner, so I had to be a loser. And since then, I've tried to conduct myself so I don't have to make excuses, accept accountability for what you're doing. And everybody does that to some degree, but if you intended to run and beat a personal best, but it was raining, that's an excuse. If you were writing a paper or a report and the power went out, well, that's an excuse too. So that's just my mindset, I guess you would say, is excuses are for beginners and losers. And what happens is we give an explanation, but it's heard as an excuse by other people. One of my, I don't remember where I heard it, but I've repeated it a dozen times. We tend to judge ourselves on our intentions, but others on their actions. When you say I meant to or I was going to, you're judging yourself based on your intention, not your action. And you tend to rely on excuses if you do that.
Yeah, very true. And that's where our integrity comes from, right? If you don't keep those promises to yourself, you're not going to have high integrity.
Right.
Because you know what you should be doing. Right? We all internally know.
And you don't want to feel guilty. You don't want to feel guilty for not doing it.
Yeah. I'm curious. So speaking of what's next, you ran a marathon at 70. What's next?
I have this dream of becoming a keynote speaker at leadership conferences. I just like everybody else, I'm scared when I get up and with a microphone, but after 10 seconds I'm comfortable. And I have stories that I think might apply to almost any group. So that's what I want to do. I want to take the easy life, work 10 days a year, and go back to the couch.
What a great way to become a couch potato. That's good. how close are you to achieving that? What's so just to give somebody perspective, right? At 70 years old, you're deciding, hey, I'm going to become a keynote speaker. Where do you begin on that journey? Because that's a lofty goal for anybody to have. So how about you?
Well, I'm lucky because I'm a lifelong volunteer, and I'll be able to do my training wheel keynote speeches as a volunteer, which is fine with me. I'm also going to film an audition tape and fill the room with friends who will laugh at the right time, at my jokes, and clap when they're supposed to. So we'll see how that goes.
I would also recommend Toastmasters. I think that would be huge for you, a Toastmasters group. But I would also encourage you, volunteering is great. Man, you could be getting paid $5 to $10 grand up there on stage if you really wanted to.
I accept your offer. Thank you very much.
There you go. I kind of want to change gears because you mentioned, and I think something we could all benefit from, a marriage of 50 years. How many years has it been now?
We just had our 50th anniversary this summer.
Incredible. So something that's been lost on this society is the value of marriage and how to make a marriage work. 50 years, that is unbelievable. What a milestone. What advice do you give to people out there who aren't married? Because I know people. I have people in my life who don't see marriage as something that you need to do, or they don't see the value in it. What would you say to them?
Well, I'm not a marriage counselor.
Well, you could be. 50 years in, you can give some counseling. Trust me.
One of the stories in the book is about how I met my wife, but as soon as I met her, I knew I wanted to marry her. It took her a while longer. My mantra, which when we were younger used to upset her, but now doesn't, is this. Here's my advice to anyone who's married. Decide if you want to be happy or right. I want to be happy.
That can be applied. This is why I asked this question, because the things that are true in marriages are true for life, for business, for relationships, all over. Because your marriage is the second hardest relationship you ever have, next to your own relationship with yourself.
I like that. Yeah, I would agree.
It's hard enough to live with yourself, but you have to find somebody else who loves you enough to live with you having to deal with yourself. And so being right or being happy, we look, I think in every spot of life, right? Do I need to be right in my life, or do I want to be happy in my life? And I want to be happy with what's going on. And so letting go of that being right all the time is huge. And right now, like the culture we live in, right? We're as we're recording this, we're nearing November 5th, 2024. We're nearing a huge election. Mm-hmm. And so many people want to be right instead of wanting to be happy. And learning to live with other people is so important, because we're humans. We have to deal with other humans. And I want to be able to live with people. I don't need to be right, but I do have to have a high level of integrity for myself. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question is, in marriage, how do you maintain being happy while keeping your integrity?
Well, I think that all relationships come down to communication. Mm-hmm. And there's a right time to talk. There's a wrong time to talk. There's a right way to talk. There's a wrong time to talk. So the only thing I'll tell you is that we still have a date night every week. If I'm traveling, and it's usually Monday night, and it's Monday night because if I schedule it for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, something might happen and I have to cancel it, and I don't want to do that. So I do it on Monday night. And we just go out and talk. We don't, all of the cliches are true. Don't go to bed angry. You know what I mean? They're all true. They're all based on communication. I think that I have some unique talents. My wife has some unique talents. Some of them clash, some of them overlap, but in general, they complement each other. Mm-hmm. She's smarter than me. I'm fine with that. She's better looking than me. I'm fine with that. I may be more persistent than her, and she's fine with that. So that's our story. We're sticking to it.
Well, I love that. That's so good, because you can apply that to the humility of just people around you, because especially in the culture we live in, comparison is so ramped up these days because of social media. We're always comparing ourselves to others. But being able to know who you are lets you celebrate other people the way they are, instead of wanting to control them and change them. And I think that's a huge thing we have right now as a problem, is we want people to believe what we're saying, and we try to force them into that. And you can't do that. We have to let people be themselves. And the only way you're going to impact somebody or influence somebody is by being who you are and by living an integrous sort of life. Is this something for you that's always been easy? What did you say?
It became easy when I decided that the number one attribute I wanted to have was to be authentic. When your goal is to be authentic, a lot of this other stuff goes away. You mentioned the election coming up. I have projected that after the election is over, we're going to enter the age of authenticity, because we've all had enough BS to last a lifetime. The people who are going to be successful, whether that's politicians or CEOs or husbands or wives, authenticity is the way to go. And I think that the world is ready for authenticity.
I love that. That is 100% true. We need more authenticity. What do you have a strategy that you recommend to people for maintaining persistence and optimism? Because it can be so, it's so easy to be pessimistic. It's so easy to give up. Are there certain things that you do on a daily basis to keep yourself in that state?
Well, I'll tell you about persistence. When I was in my early 20s, I saw a sign hanging in a restaurant. It was a quote from Calvin Coolidge. And what it said was, nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has solved and always will solve problems of the human race. And I read that every day. That's the only tip I have. I just keep plowing ahead. As far as optimism goes, I think if you are surrounded by, at any time in your life, if you are surrounded by pessimists or in close contact with pessimists, you think very poorly of them. And I don't want people thinking poorly of me.
Yeah.
So, and as I said earlier, it's just more fun being an optimist than a pessimist. It just is.
Yeah.
The one of the human behaviors, or I'm not sure it's a mindset, but people assume positive intent or negative intent. Just use this situation. I'm assuming positive intent, meaning I didn't come on here thinking you were going to embarrass me or make me look like an idiot. I assume positive intent. So many people assume negative intent, and they hear what they expected to hear.
Yeah.
When I have this expression, when I've done a lot of performance reviews on my time, and what I tell people when I'm doing a performance review is, before I start talking, you decide whether I'm out to get you or I'm out to help you, because everything I say is going to support both of those positions. It depends on your attitude.
Yeah, that is so true. It's the same. It could be the same situation, and two people with two different mindsets will walk into it and perceive two different things.
Right.
So we're nearing the end of this thing. I really want to know for yourself, how do you define success in your life? What is success to you? We got. I think we're frozen. We're definitely frozen in time here right now with Ed. This is the beauty of doing live podcasts over the internet. This is what happens sometimes. So for some reason, Ed is frozen. I would recommend, You check out observationsatthespeedoflife.com. And what I absolutely love about conversations like this is you can glean information from incredible people who have lived incredible lives. And I think one of the most valuable things, Ed's been kicked off. I'm sure he'll be back. One of the most incredible things we can do in life is make sure that we're paying attention to the people that we come in contact with, because you're going to learn something from everybody. Some people you're going to learn what not to do. Other people you're going to learn what to do, but you can learn something from everyone. And another giant mistake we've made in our society is pushing elderly people out of the picture like they're not important, like they don't have value. They have so much value. And it looks like Ed is back. He's returned. Yes, he's back. See,
So
you pressed on.
As soon as I say, I assumed you didn't want to make me look bad, you cut me off. I can't believe you did that.
Well, look what you did. You pressed on, and here you are.
Right.
Back again. Yeah. So how do you define success in your life?
I would say that it's for anything, it's all related to goals, whether that's, our intentions or whatever, but the goal of running a marathon or writing a book or marrying the girl of my dreams or having a date night every week, those are all goals. And when you achieve your goal, you feel better, you feel successful. The goal could be to be promoted. The goal could be to make more money. The goal could be to volunteer. I will tell you that my personal life, I like myself better when I volunteer. And so I just have to do it because I want to like myself. I want to have good self-esteem, and that isn't up to you. That's up to me.
Oh yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good. I want to like myself, so I volunteer. Everybody could use that word of advice today. That's really good. Observations at the Speed of Life is the book. You can buy it at observationsatthespeedoflife.com. And I'll say this right now, Ed, there's so much to, I was saying this as you got cut off, and I just kind of was filling in the gap, but we learn something from everybody that we come in contact with. Oftentimes we learn what not to do. If we meet the right people, we learn what to do. And I love the fact that you've taken those observations of what to do, put them into a book that we can all benefit from in our life. So I encourage people to go out and get that book. And I also have to give myself a quick plug before we do sign off. Be the authority in your space, launch your platform, go to robzwentz.com. And so I have a mentor, right? His name is Ray Overdorf. Ray is, I believe, 86 now. You remind me of him in the sense that he never stops. He's about to be a first-time published author. So you're a little bit ahead of him, a few years ahead of him. And but I love it because it's that mentality of what's next. What am I going to do next? Why? I said to him, we were just joking around a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you could be just lounging in a retirement home right now. And he goes, Rob, I stepped foot in a retirement home once in my life. I walked 5 feet in the door. I looked around and I said, I got to get the hell out of here right now. And I thought, that's good. I want that to be me. And I'm sure you could relate.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to leave the audience with before we sign off today?
Well, I think that the most important thing in my life has been that I am responsible for me. I'm responsible for my own motivation. Other people can help me. But, there's a Billy Joel song that says, sooner or later you wake up with yourself. And nobody cares more about you than you do. That's the reality. No matter how much in love you are, nobody cares more about you than you do. So take care of yourself.
Yeah. Nobody cares more about you than you do. So care and care about the right things for yourself too. Don't worry about stuff all the time. Care about the right stuff. That's good. That's really, really good. Thank you for being here, Ed. It's been wonderful meeting you and getting to know you. This has been amazing. Another amazing true testimony of breakthrough. Use this today in your life. This has been the Unstuck Movement.